Today we have a fun hand featuring the king of video blogging, Brad Owen. This hand was played at Bellagio, where I actually got my start playing a whole lot of live cash games back in the day. I typically tried to play better hands than Brad Owen does. He has the 8-2 offsuit against a trash-talking opponent who's getting in there and swirling around a bit. Let's see how it goes.
Cutoff limps in. He's the same dude who folded pocket queens pre-flop. I check. The flop comes queen 8 deuce with 2 diamonds. We've got bottom 2 pair.
All right, the opponent opts to limp. A good reason to not limp is because you really do not want to let the big blind see the flop for free, right? So you should be raising pre-flop. Even if you had a drink or two, even if you're splashing around, don't open limp. Open limping is really bad. If you're playing 5-10 no limit and you're open limping from the cutoff, you're probably not going to make it. All right, he lets Brad flop pretty much the nuts. Queen 8-2. Brad checks, looking to check raise, I presume.
I check. The cutoff checks back.
Big bummer when it goes check.
Turn is the 8 of diamonds, giving us a boat with 2 cards that I would have been happy to have folded pre-flop.
All right. We turn a full house on a pretty coordinated board. 3 diamonds on the board. It's an interesting spot where I think we have 2 options. We can either check or we can look to check raise. I think when it goes check on the flop, there's no reason to necessarily think the opponent will bet unless you have some sort of read on them. It sounds like Brad has decent amounts of reads on this player, whereas I have none. But I think in general you want to bet here because if your opponent does have a random ace high with a diamond or king high with a diamond or like pocket 7s with a diamond, they're just going to check it back again. But a lot of players in this spot, if they have nothing, like king jack of clubs, will decide to run an aggressive bluff. So this is a spot where my play is going to be very player dependent, and I will just default to Brad to see what he does.
I don't want this to check through again, so I bet 30.
Goes for the chunky bet. Now you might say, why overpot it? Doesn't that look strong? But you have to realize that the pot's only $25. When the pot's 2.5 big blinds, you should be using big bet sizes. And in this scenario, maybe even a bigger bet size is ideal because most people are not going to fold a hand like the king of diamonds or the ace of diamonds, especially if they are in there having a party. So, whatever. $30 bet is perfectly fine and reasonable.
This is when things get interesting. Cutoff min raises to 60. I'm wondering if I should go for the re-raise now or if I should let this dude hang himself.
He min raises to 60. What in the world does that mean? This is a spot where I think most people are going to be min raising with hands they think are good but don't want to play a giant pot with them. That's going to be something like a queen or maybe like pocket 10s. But a lot of those hands would have bet the flop. It's definitely a weird play. I realize whenever you're playing against someone who is loose and splashy and you don't really know what's going on, you're just kind of stuck in a guessing game. And I think in this spot, the fear of calling the $60, well, the $30 on top raise is just going to go check on a lot of rivers, right? If your opponent does have pocket 9s and decided to min raise the turn, if you call, it's going to go check pretty much every time and you don't win any more money, which is a bummer. But if you think about it, if you re-raise here and he has pocket 9s, he's probably going to fold anyway, and you also don't get to win more money. So it's a tough spot whenever they do have what I think is mostly a marginal made hand. But I guess the play is to just call and give him every chance to run a bluff on the river, because if you do re-raise, he's probably going to fold out a lot of his garbage. And if he does have a hand like the ace of diamonds, I got to presume he's not raising the turn. So this is a weird spot. I guess the play is to call, but whenever you're out of position, it feels really dicey here.
He's actually amassed a huge stack somehow, but he's had several drinks, and he's talking some trash.
You could beat the YouTube, man. What is it? Clive Owen or something?
Tough to beat Clive Owen.
Clive Owen, yeah.
I flat in order to go for the check raise on the river. The dealer puts out the 7 of spades. I check to the cutoff.
Like I was saying here, this is a spot where if he does have a hand like 10s, he's probably going to let it go check.
Sort of concerned that this might get checked back.
Oh, there you go.
It doesn't. The guy is like Joe Montana coming through in the clutch with a bet of 100.
Woo! Nice $100 bet. At this point, I have to presume the opponent's somewhat polarized, you would think. This is weird because we're getting all sorts of mixed signals from the opponent, right? He limped to begin with. Then he checked back the flop so he can kind of remove a lot of queens from his range. Then he min raises the turn, which makes literally no sense. And then he bets the river. Maybe just randomly has a flush. He could have a flush. Maybe he also has an 8. So in this scenario, I want to ask myself, if he has a flush or an 8, how much will he call? And the answer is a lot. So I would go for a big raise here, because if he does have a hand weaker than a queen, he's probably not going to call any bet. And if he has like just nothing, he's obviously going to fold to any bet. So this is a spot where I think the right play is to go for a big raise. A lot of people in this scenario go for a minimum raise or something like that because they really want to get called. And to be fair, they do block the board a little bit. But the way the opponent's played this hand is probably either really strong, pretty marginal, or garbage. If it's marginal or garbage, it's hard to get paid off. And if it is a really good hand, which it very easily could be, we want to go for full value. Let's see what Brad does.
He's not going to be too thrilled when I make my move. I raise to
400.
Nice.
the opponent's a bit of a serial tanker. At least he makes it fun by allowing us access to what's going on in his head. For a dude who had all the right reads, he gets a well-earned F for his play. Usually you don't want to raise someone that you believe to be strong, and you definitely don't want to fire again on the river once you get called.
If you have the read that your opponent is strong, don't bet. It's a poker tip for you.
It's not his fault, though, that he's in this situation. It's obviously the dealer's fault.
Let's talk about berating the dealer real quick while we're here. So in this scenario, Dustin, I presume, is the dealer. And the cutoff opponent says, Dustin, you're effing horrible. Now look, you can say that very jokingly, or you can say it very maliciously. If it's like a joke, then, fine, sure, have fun, as long as the dealer's joking along with you. That said, I would generally not do anything to berate the dealers or make... People have a difficult time understanding tone, especially in the age of Twitter. And for that reason, I would typically not say things like this ever. And I would recommend that you do not. It's clearly not the dealer's fault that you're bad at poker. All right, let's see what's happening.
The player earlier got a count on my chips. I have 1180 behind. I'm starting to think that this tank job might be an elaborate act, and then he's going to jam on me with queens full or something. We'll soon find out that's not the case when the opponent decides to turn over the jack of diamonds as if he's got the flush in order to get a reaction out of me. To be honest, I'm more worried about a real-life Sharknado happening than I am about this guy's fake flush that he's wasting everyone's time with. If he had a flush, why not just flip over both cards? Instead, he keeps going on with the theatrics. Dude, I bluffed you earlier with 9-8 as a tribute to Tony the Goose Siragusa. He doesn't know that though. After a minute and 54 seconds goes by in a pot that isn't that large, the opponent folds what I imagine is Queen-Jack offsuit.
I think Brad played this hand very, very well. A little bit unfortunate on the river's opponent probably had nothing. Brad's giving him credit for Queen-Jack. I'm giving him more credit for Jack-10 or King of Diamonds. I guess he had to show Jack of Diamonds. Maybe it's like King with the Jack of Diamonds or some total nonsense. And against total nonsense, there's nothing you can do besides call the turn bet and give him every chance to bluff the river, which Brad did. And by playing it in that way, Brad probably won an extra $100 river bet. Good job. Good work. Huge thanks to Brad for letting us use this video. Make sure you check out his links below. He is the master video blogger, and you do not want to miss out on all of his work. That's going to be it for today. Whenever you run badly, don't berate the dealers. Berate yourselves. Click the like button if you enjoyed this. Goodbye.